Walking around Target a few weeks ago, the shofar sounded. Not really. But I noticed the back to school section, which means that the Yamim Noraim were coming. I decided to browse it to see if there were still any things being sold that I had used in my childhood. There were. I bought some, not for my kids, not for my granddaughter, but for me. So let me ask you, have you purchased a new box of 64 crayons lately? In that big Crayola box? With 2 levels of crayons and a sharpener? Do you picture it? Can you feel it in your hand? Still unbroken and sharp, all in order, ready to be used in whatever creative endeavor you conjure up. You can still get those. How about the last time you bought a completely new notebook with one of those perfect pink erasers and number 2 pencils sharpened to perfection with no tooth marks in them? They have those too. I guess what I'm asking you, really, is when did you last act like a child? Not childishly in a negative sense, but childlike, with an excitement about everything, with anticipation and eagerness about learning something new, with the belief that you could be anything and do anything. For too many of us, I'm afraid, it has been quite a while since we allowed ourselves the personal freedom to reclaim the kid inside. Some of us live vicariously through our children or grandchildren, and while that is wonderful and magical in its way, it's not the same thing as each of us claiming a youthful enjoyment of life. The fact is that most all of us became grown-ups with a capital G, and no matter what generation we were born in, we are all flooded with responsibilities and life concerns that limit our spontaneity and creativity. It's not just problematic because we don't have innocent fun anymore. The reality of adulthood has many more consequences than that. I fear that along with our ability to revel in simple play, we have lost our ability to hope and to dream as well. Somewhere, we discarded yearnings, far-fetched plans, and crazy schemes. I don't think we meant to litter them onto our passive life. They just kind of fell by the wayside. So I recently, on LinkedIn, read some information that emerged from a study of students. The first interaction with the case study group was when they were in elementary school. The speaker looked into the faces of the children and asked enthusiastically, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Hands shot up. The students excitedly shared that they were going to be president, astronaut, a horse trainer, a superhero, and more. They spoke loudly and laughed happily with one another as they shared their future with confidence. 5 years later, the same speaker met with the same case study groups in middle school and asked the same question. But only a few students raised their hands and self-consciously shared, "Well, I'm going to be a teacher." One said, "I'll work for McDonald's." One said, "I'll be working with my dad." Another said, "I will be a mechanic." And then there was silence. No real enthusiasm. 5 years later, the speaker met them in high school. Again, they were asked. And this time, there were no hands raised, so the speaker picked students and asked them to share their hopes for a future occupation. The answers ranged from the distracted, "I don't know," to "I'll go to college and I'll decide then," Or only one teen said he wanted to study medicine and become a doctor, but then very clearly indicated that he wasn't actually confident that he would be able to achieve this hope. So what happened to those students? Where were the confident, brave, enthusiastic 6-year-olds the speaker had first met? The case conclusion indicated that somewhere along the path, seeds of doubt had been planted and self-consciousness and feelings of inadequacy had grown. This happens all too often, and we see it in the lack of confidence felt by many of us, many adults, as we seek to pursue our dreams. Just the other day, I had a conversation with several beloved friends. One who is a talit maker, a creative artist. She donates every dollar of profit to Jewish organizations here in Israel. She shared the reality that the only time she gets to work on her talitot is late at night when she is finished with all of her other responsibilities. Working with the colors and fabrics that become her talitot is her equivalent of having a new box of Crayolas. All the possibilities are there waiting to be uncovered, but she struggles to find any time whatsoever to engage with her passion. I also discussed this drash with a friend that I have known for more than 40 years. She's here today. My friend is a very intelligent person and an avid scholar. But back in the days when that friend had hoped to do college and graduate study in a field that was completely intriguing for her, significant issues got in the way. I can assure you, however, that that friend could run circles around people who did get the opportunity to get the degrees. But that reality doesn't solve the feelings of regret. I hate talking about the pandemic. We're so bored with it. But the desire and ability to embrace our hopes and experience new things suffered then. With so much stress and isolation, many of us didn't feel motivated to imagine adventures. And yes, there were good experiences for some people, but much got put aside and slipped away. And the worst aspect of that, in my opinion, was calling the future the new normal. Yes, sometimes dreams have to be put aside. And when opportunities arise later, of course things will be different. But we are all still ourselves, and a part of re-embracing hopes and dreams is to assert that we will not allow what happened before to define what we can and cannot achieve. I stand here as one of those people. It's an absolute miracle, wonder, and magic to me that I get to be here at Adat Ariel after 36 years. What a dream. The Talmud teaches, woe to that which passes, never to return. We must heed the warning of the sages. We can't always exactly replicate what our former dreams were. Maybe we don't want to. We may have had to let them go at once, but we are still here today alive, and woe to us if we don't find a way to create new dreams of now and make them happen. So we're fortunate, as Jews, that once a year, several days are provided for us to do some self-searching, to touch our own souls once again and to feel. It's a misconception that the theme of these days is limited to teshuvah in the sense of repentance from transgression. Sure, we turn inward to look at how we've erred against others, but there's another definition of teshuvah. As you know, it is the simple idea of return, and return to God, yes. Return to those we love, yes. But also returning to ourselves in sense of excitement and optimism and hope that we can once again reach the unlimited possibilities we embraced in our youth with positivity. Rabbi Steve Leader at Wilshire Boulevard Temple wrote, Rabbi Moshe Rothblum's not here. He's at Beth Am today because his granddaughter was reading Torah. But I'm a Moshe Rothblum groupie, so I've got to put a joke in the... So he wrote, do you know the joke about the Jewish optimist? The Jewish pessimist says, oh my God, things could not be worse. And the Jewish optimist says, of course they could. I also like the words of Rabbi Dunner of North Beverly Hills, Young Israel. A little bit more serious, but wonderful. The Jewish spirit is optimism. We always believe that the impossible is possible, and that's what happens. We have to be brave enough to return to a time past, but not necessarily so far away from our hearts. Can we still tap our energy, rediscover our aspirations? Of course we can. We can do that personally, and we can do that communally. A long time ago, I read this story of David Pryor from Arkansas, who served in the House of Representatives in the 60s. The Senate, and he was governor and sat on many committees up until 2015. As a teenager, he became enchanted with Washington, D.C. and his vision of government. I wish we still had that. He first became a congressional page and vowed that someday he would return as a member of Congress. In order to reinforce his goal, he hid a dime in a crack behind a statue in the Capitol and decided that he would retrieve it when he succeeded. 15 years later, he was elected to the House, went to the statue, and sure enough, the dime was there in the wall. So I don't know what that says about the cleanliness of the Capitol building, but I do know that David Pryor was right to hope and then to act. Dreams should not be neglected, for they represent the best of what we can be and also a clear indication of faith. An adage says that old age occurs the moment you think that there isn't something wonderful about to happen around the corner. In some people, this occurs early in life. In others, not at all. No matter how old we are chronologically, we don't need to have oldness creep up on us. We need to embrace the idea that emotionally, at least, we won't age, but we'll continue to discover creative ways to grab life and live it at each stage. So I've watched this blossoming with my husband, Ken, who loves woodworking, and went from reading books and watching a friend work, also here, to acting on his interest in setting up a wood shop in our home. He just finished making 2 beautiful end tables for our family room. Ask him, maybe he'll make something for you. Right now, he works full-time, but sets aside small increments of time to nurture his soul and his dream as well. It occurs to me that if there are people at Adat Ariel who love woodworking or any other hobby, you should let us know, because maybe we can get together groups of people who want to be involved in doing something they love, something creative together. I know that it's hard to find time in life. Sometimes I feel that technology, which was supposed to help us make things easier, has instead sucked up more of our time. But that's another drush for another day. We, the older people here, know the truth, that more time really doesn't ever appear in our lives. So many people who retired are quizzical about why they didn't seem to get more time to do things after their work days were over. Living out one's youthful hopes and dreams is worthwhile when the quest takes into account the positive meaning of the life we have built and who we have grown to be. And sometimes it makes family life and friendships even better. because the person supported in achieving their dreams feels free, whole, and happy, and that influences the way people around them feel as well. So communally, fulfilling hopes and dreams can be difficult too. There are several concerns in our current world that remind us that being optimistic and pursuing the dream take a lot of positive effort. While we are all aware of the very problematic political divide in Israel, many people are concerned about the future. It's important to remember that Israel started with optimism, dreams, and the hope, hatikva. Frankly, I don't really know enough about the political situation to speak about it. However, I do know that times change and governments change everywhere. We've experienced that. I believe that the dream of Israel will survive. All Jews around the world, whether they realize it or not, depend on Israel to reclaim optimism, hope, and security. In the US, it's clear to everyone that even before the pandemic, involving oneself in Jewish community and showing up for Shabbat and holidays had waned. The generation of young adults are, for the most part, not joiners, and synagogues are all about being embraced by community. In addition, Jewish life isn't the same as it once was, with family members living close and getting together for all holidays and Shabbatot to eat, share, and schmooze, and yes, of course, to argue as well. Loud, but close-knit. Maybe we don't live near our loved ones anymore. Our parents and grandparents who held the family and traditions together may no longer be around to teach younger generations or prod them, harass them to go to shul. We as parents parented in a different generation, one that doesn't want to alienate our kids, so we don't push. It's not the fault of young Jews. Many were raised in Jewishly uninvolved families and lack memories and Jewish education. In addition, there are many options to attract their attention and dedication that the previous generation never had. They don't have to go to shul to find their b'sher, their life partner. They have so many choices online for that if they even want to find a partner. Being Jewish may not be on the top of their list, but my experience is that it's still on their list. We can share some Jewish dreams and hopes with them as well. And I don't know if you've noticed it, but at Adar things are really changing and looking up. We've seen so many more children and young families in the shul, which moves us sometimes to incredible joy. So think of the hundreds of Adar members that are at camp today. It might not be a good choice for everyone, because we're not there, but it's creative and people take the day off for it. So it got to be too easy during COVID as well. Now let's be real. Being able to live stream is great for people who can't come to shul because they're ill, they're very elderly. But it became a thing for a lot of people and still is. Hi. Here's the thing. If you go to shul remotely, you don't need to get dressed. You don't even need to be on the screen. You can even put up a photo or nothing, just your name. If people can't see us, we can go make breakfast while at shul. And before we know it, the Siddur is somewhere else, and we're at services as though we were watching a TV show instead of praying. Live stream and Zoom are important. But I'll speak for Cantor Aronoff and all of us. We're so glad you're here. So we have dreams. We have hopes as a community. things that we want to see happen, that we may have had to give up for a while, but we want to claim back. At Adat Ariel, you know, there are wonderful opportunities for engagement and connection. And you may have already heard, but please forgive me, if you have children or grandchildren who are at Adat Ariel, after the holidays, we will begin personal shul swag for children with toys, games, and books in them. Right back there is where they'll have their play center. Those of you who have been at Adat Ariel for years and years, I hope you remember when children played at the back of this sanctuary, and they will again. We'll be frequently adding surprises to their bags so they can come to shul and feel special, have fun, and their parents can relax and be at services as well. That's our dream. So, we know that we need to create and continue creating new traditions, along with classic ones, if we want our children and our children's children to be able to have dreams as well that include Jewish experiences. We hope that they carry on the beauty of our heritage, and we don't want to set that dream aside. We want to make it their own. In Mishnah Torah, it is written that on this day of tshuva, self-searching and return, Af al pi shetikiyat shofar b'Rosh Hashanah gzeirat hakatuv, remez yesh bo klumar, uru yishenim, mishantechem v'nirdamim, hikitzu meitardem enchem, v'chavshu b'maasechem, v'chazru b'tshuva, v'zichru borachem. Even though the blowing of the shofar on Rosh Hashanah is a biblical decree, it hints at something. Wake up, sleepers, from your sleep, and slumberers arise from your slumber. Search your actions and return in tshuva and remember your Creator. This is an exceptional text. It's not chastisement, but instead a tap on our shoulder by our Creator to wake up and rediscover ourselves and our dreams. The return in tshuva is not only repentance for what we've done wrong, but is a reminder for us that our lives are precious and meaningful. We should and can make the most of them. God partners with us and expects us to live our lives to the fullest, individually and communally. An achievement of our hopes and dreams, we can find a unique personal prayer, a connection with God. It can be a prayer that begins with the sound of the shofar and resonates through us all the days of our life. God reminds us we are alive, we are important, and we can make our colorful and creative dreams real if we just return to that place of optimism, hope, and action. It's there. And the special things that we forgot still exist. In the symbolic unused box of perfect crayons, in the pencils sharpened, in the clean unmarked paper, it has been with us since our youth, and it belongs to us now. May you bring blessing to yourself and others, and color your own future with joy and with meaning. Shana Tova.